Welcome back, Deep Divers. This week, we're taking you on a bit of a journey through some of the biggest stories shaking up Southern California.
All right.
And all of this is from the Top 5 Stories This Week section of the Observer Group newspapers,
Oh, cool.
dated March 12th, 2025.
Okay.
We're going to be dissecting those headlines, connecting the dots,
Yeah.
and hopefully uncovering those hidden layers that make you see the news in a whole new light.
It's interesting how this week's news reflects this sort of push and pull between the past and the present. It's like we're wrestling with the ghosts of history while trying to navigate the complexities of today.
Yeah.
We have the 60th anniversary of the Selma marches,
Right.
which is a stark reminder of the ongoing battle for voting rights, alongside government shakeups and political clashes that are shaping the very fabric of our society.
So let's start with that powerful commemoration of Bloody Sunday in Selma, Alabama.
Oh.
Now, for those who might need a refresher, this was a pivotal event in the civil rights movement where peaceful protesters marching for the right to vote were brutally attacked by state troopers.
Wow.
The Edmund Pettus Bridge, where that violence unfolded, has become a symbol of both the struggle and the resilience of those fighting for equality.
And what makes this anniversary even more striking is how it resonates with concerns about voting rights today.
Right.
The events of Bloody Sunday, you see, ultimately led to the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which was a landmark piece of legislation that outlawed discriminatory voting practices. But in recent years, there's been a push to roll back some of those protections,
Yeah.
leading many to fear that we're backsliding on the progress that was so hard won.
The Observer Group included some incredibly moving firsthand accounts from people who were actually there on Bloody Sunday. Charles Malden, who was just 17 years old at the time, described being beaten and tear-gassed by state troopers. Can you imagine the courage it took to face that kind of violence? To keep fighting for your rights, even when it felt like the whole world was against you?
Yeah, it speaks to the unwavering spirit of those who participated in the Selma marches. They knew the risks, they knew the danger, but they marched anyway because they believed in something bigger than themselves. And their actions had a ripple effect that continues to this day.
The article also mentions Kurt Carrington, who was only 13 when he found himself being chased through the streets of Selma by a horseman.
Oh, wow.
These personal stories bring history to life in a way that statistics never could.
Yeah.
They remind us that these weren't just abstract events. They were real experiences that shaped the lives of real people.
And that's why it's so crucial to remember Selma, to learn from it, and to ensure that the sacrifices made during the civil rights movement weren't in vain. It's a reminder that the fight for justice is often a long and arduous journey, but that each step forward, no matter how small, brings us closer to a more equitable society.
The Observer Group piece also touches on the feels of some, that we're seeing a resurgence of the same tactics that were used to suppress voting rights decades ago. Things like voter ID laws, restrictions on early voting, and even the purging of voter rolls, all of which disproportionately impact minority communities. It's almost as if history is repeating itself, which is a chilling thought.
What's fascinating here is how the tactics might be evolving, but the underlying goal remains the same: to limit access to the ballot box for certain groups.
Yeah.
And that raises important questions about the fragility of democracy and the importance of constant vigilance in protecting our fundamental rights.
It's a sobering reminder that the fight for equality is never truly over. We can't afford to become complacent, thinking that the progress we've made is guaranteed. We have to stay informed, engaged, and willing to speak out against injustice wherever we see it.
Absolutely. The legacy of Selma is not just about remembering the past. It's about using the lessons of history to guide our actions in the present and to shape a more just future.
Now, speaking of the present, let's shift gears to a story that's causing quite a stir in Washington. The mass firing of government employees and contractors, particularly those who were involved in diversity initiatives.
Oh,
This news caught my eye because it seems like there's more to this than meets the eye.
there are certainly some concerning aspects to this situation.
Yeah.
On the surface, it appears to be a dramatic shift in the administration's priorities, with a clear move away from diversity and inclusion efforts.
Yeah.
But digging deeper, we see potential issues with security and transparency that raise even more questions.
The Observer Group highlighted one particularly unsettling detail. Some of the fired employees still have access to government computers, equipment, and even their email accounts. Imagine the potential for sensitive information to be compromised.
Yeah.
It's almost like something out of a spy thriller.
The security implications are quite significant.
Yeah.
Government systems contain a wealth of confidential data, from personal information to national security secrets.
Right.
If former employees retain access, it creates a vulnerability that could be exploited by malicious actors.
And it gets even more intriguing. One program manager who was let go tried to return their government-issued laptop and was met with this cryptic response that hinted at internal conflicts within the administration.
Oh, wow.
Then there's this mandate for employees to scrub websites of any language related to diversity and equity, which just adds another layer of mystery to the whole situation.
What we're seeing here is a lack of transparency that's concerning. The government has a responsibility to be accountable to the people,
Right.
and that includes being open about its actions and their rationale.
Yeah.
When information is shrouded in secrecy,
Right.
it breeds distrust and raises questions about the motives behind those actions.
It makes you wonder what's really going on behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Is this simply a change in policy direction? Or is there something more at play here?
Yeah.
Are there legitimate security concerns, or is this a deliberate attempt to silence certain voices and erase certain priorities?
Those are the questions that need to be explored further.
Yeah.
We need more transparency from the administration,
Right.
more accountability for these actions, and a clear understanding of the potential risks involved in allowing former employees continued access to sensitive information.
It's a reminder that we can't take government actions at face value.
Yeah.
We need to dig deeper, ask the tough questions, and hold our leaders accountable for their decisions.
Exactly. Informed citizenry is essential to a functioning democracy.
Yeah.
We need to be aware of what our government is doing, why they're doing it, and what the potential consequences might be.
Now, speaking of actions with consequences, our next story takes us to the halls of Congress, where Rep. Al Green found himself at the center of a political firestorm.
Oh, okay.
He was formally censured for interrupting President Trump's address to Congress, an act of protest against proposed cuts to Medicare and Social Security.
What's interesting here is that while Rep. Green's actions were deemed unacceptable and met with swift punishment, other members of Congress who interrupted President Biden's speeches faced no such repercussions.
Right.
This disparity in treatment raises concerns about a potential double standard and whether political affiliations are influencing disciplinary actions.
The article really highlights this contrast.
Yeah.
You have Democrats singing "We Shall Overcome" in a show of solidarity after Rep. Green's censure, and then you have Republicans trying to silence them. It feels like a microcosm of the larger partisan battles that are tearing our country apart.
This incident raises a fundamental question. What role does protest play in a democracy?
Right.
When does it cross the line from acceptable dissent into disruptive behavior? And who gets to decide where that line is drawn?
The Observer Group described this powerful image of Democrats singing "We Shall Overcome," a song that's become synonymous with the civil rights movement. It's as if they were drawing a parallel between the struggles of the past and the challenges we face today.
The choice of that particular song was certainly symbolic.
Yeah.
It speaks to the ongoing fight for justice and equality, and it underscores the deep divisions that still exist within our society.
This story feels deeply connected to our earlier discussion about Selma. Both events, though decades apart, highlight the importance of raising your voice, of speaking truth to power, even when it's uncomfortable or comes at a personal cost.
And both events show us how those in power can use their authority to try to silence dissent.
Yeah.
Whether it's through violence, like in Selma, or through censure and political maneuvering, like in the case of Rep. Green, the goal is often the same: to maintain control and suppress opposition.
So we've gone from the streets of Selma to the halls of Congress, and now we're diving headfirst into the world of California politics.
All right.
Are you ready for some local drama?
Always up for a bit of political intrigue,
Okay.
especially when it involves our home state.
Well, get ready, because the Observer Group's political playback section is a whirlwind of hot-button issues. We've got reparations, tariffs, and a fire chief's appeal, all crammed into a few paragraphs.
Wow.
Talk about a lot to unpack.
Let's start with the reparations story,
Okay.
which has a particularly intriguing twist. We have Camilla Moore, the former chair of California's Reparations Task Force,
Right.
joining forces with a Republican assemblyman, Bill Essayli, who actually opposes taxpayer-funded reparations. Now, that's an unlikely alliance.
I know, right? And what's even more interesting, that they're working together to establish the California American Freedmen Agency, which would help descendants of enslaved African Americans trace their genealogy. While Assemblyman Essayli is against direct financial reparations, He sees value in providing resources for genealogical research.
It's a fascinating example of how, even in a highly polarized political climate,
Right.
it's possible to find common ground on complex issues.
It seems like they're focusing on what they agree on,
Yeah.
rather than letting their differences derail the entire effort.
Right.
It's a reminder that progress doesn't always happen in a straight line. Sometimes it takes unexpected partnerships and creative solutions to move forward.
Exactly. And it's also a reminder that the reparations debate is multifaceted.
Yeah.
There are many different perspectives on how to address the legacy of slavery and its ongoing impact, and this partnership highlights the complexity of those discussions.
Now, while Moore and Nassali are trying to bridge the divide on reparations, Governor Newsom is taking on President Trump's trade war,
Okay.
arguing that those tariffs on goods from Canada, Mexico, and China are hurting California businesses and families. It's a classic economic battle, with each side claiming to be protecting their own interests.
But the consequences are very real,
Yeah.
especially for a state like California,
Right.
which relies heavily on international trade. We're seeing the impact in rising consumer prices, shortages of certain goods, and uncertainty for businesses that depend on imports and exports.
And then there's the controversy surrounding former LA Fire Chief Kristen Crowley. The Stentorians, a black firefighter group, is urging the city council to deny her appeal for reinstatement after she was removed from her position due to allegations of discrimination and unfair practices.
This situation is a reminder that even in institutions that are supposed to protect us, there can be internal struggles for power and equality.
Yeah.
It underscores the importance of holding leaders accountable, regardless of their position, and ensuring that all members of an organization feel valued and respected.
It seems like we've encountered a similar theme throughout this deep dive. The idea that power dynamics are at play in almost every aspect of our society.
Yeah.
From the fight for voting rights, to the shakeup in Washington, to the internal battles within the LA Fire Department, it's all about who has power, how they use it, and who benefits from it.
And it's about recognizing those power dynamics so that we can challenge them, dismantle systems of oppression, and create a more just and equitable society for everyone. It's about understanding that the personal is often political and that seemingly isolated events can be connected to larger societal issues.
Speaking of personal stories that have a broader impact, our final story for this part of our deep dive takes us to Dodger Stadium, where manager Dave Roberts just made history with the biggest contract in MLB history. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, what does a baseball contract have to do with everything else we've been talking about?
That's a great question. And the answer is that even in the world of sports, we see these themes of power, leadership, and the pursuit of success playing out in fascinating ways.
All right, deep divers, let's jump back into it.
Yeah.
We just left off talking about Dave Roberts' record-breaking contract with the Dodgers.
Right.
Now, on the surface, it might just seem like another sports headline.
Yeah.
But you look a little closer and you start to see how it connects to some of the broader themes that we've been talking about.
Yeah, it's true. This isn't just about baseball. This is about leadership, about recognizing and rewarding success, and about the complexities of navigating power dynamics
Right.
in any organization, whether it's a team, a corporation, or even a government.
The Observer Group piece really laid out Roberts' impressive track record. The guy has multiple World Series titles, consistently high winning percentages, and he's widely considered one of the top managers in the league. So from a purely results-oriented perspective, you could argue that he's earned this massive contract.
From that angle, yeah, it's hard to dispute.
Right.
But it also kind of sparks a debate about the value of different leadership styles. You know, some managers are known for their tactical brilliance, their
Right.
ability to crunch numbers and make those game-changing decisions.
Yeah.
Others, like Roberts, seem to excel at fostering a strong team culture, motivating players, and creating an environment where everyone can thrive.
So it's not just about the wins and losses.
Right.
It's about those intangible qualities that a leader brings to the table.
Exactly.
It's about building trust, inspiring confidence, and getting everyone to buy into a shared vision.
Exactly. And those qualities can be difficult to measure, but they can have a profound impact on a team's success. Think about the Dodgers under Roberts' leadership. They've consistently been a force to be reckoned with, not just because of their talent,
Right.
but because they seem to play with a certain cohesiveness and resilience.
It's like they had this unshakable belief in themselves and in each other.
Right.
And that comes from the top down.
Okay.
Roberts has cultivated this culture of excellence where everyone is expected to give their all and support their teammates no matter what.
And that's something that resonates beyond the baseball diamond.
Right.
Think about any successful organization, whether it's a business, a nonprofit, or even a social movement.
Right.
You'll often find a leader who inspires that same kind of commitment and dedication.
It's fascinating how these themes of leadership, teamwork, and resilience keep popping up in such diverse stories. We saw it in the Selma Marchers, who faced incredible adversity, but never gave up on their fight for equality. We saw it in the government employees who are speaking out against what they perceive as injustice, even though it might cost them their jobs. And now we see it in a baseball manager who has built a winning culture based on trust and mutual respect.
Yeah, it seems like at its core, effective leadership is about empowering others,
Yeah.
about creating an environment where people feel valued and supported, and about working together to achieve a common goal.
And that's something we can all learn from, whether we're leading a team, participating in a movement, or just trying to navigate our own daily lives.
Right. It's a reminder that we all have the potential to be leaders in our own way, to inspire those around us, and to make a positive impact on the world.
Well said.
Okay.
Deep divers. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the echoes of history in Selma to the complexities of modern politics, from the controversies surrounding government actions to the inspiring leadership of a baseball manager. We've explored a wide range of stories that, at first glance, might seem unrelated.
Right.
But when we take a step back and look at the bigger picture,
Yeah.
we start to see how these stories are interconnected, how they reflect broader themes and trends that are shaping our society.
Absolutely.
We've seen how the fight for justice and equality is an ongoing struggle, how power dynamics influence decisions at every level, and how individual actions can have a ripple effect that extends far beyond ourselves.
And we've also seen examples of courage, resilience, and the power of collective action to challenge the status quo and create positive change.
Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a thought-provoking question to ponder. As you go about your week, pay attention to the stories that catch your attention, whether they're local, national, or global. Ask yourself, how do these stories connect to the larger narrative of our times? What do they reveal about the challenges we face as a society? And what role can we play in shaping a better future?
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the daily grind
Right.
and to feel overwhelmed by the constant barrage of information. But by taking a moment to reflect on the stories that resonate with us, to connect the dots, and to think critically about the world around us,
Right.
we can become more engaged citizens and more active participants in shaping our collective destiny.
So keep those deep diver brains engaged. And we'll be back soon with another plunge into the most fascinating stories shaping our world. Until then, stay curious and keep diving deeper.
Yeah.
You know, it's so easy to just passively consume the news, but when you take that extra step to really analyze it, to think about the why and the how, I think that's what makes the information truly meaningful.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's about moving beyond simply knowing the facts and getting to that point of understanding their significance,
Right.
their implications, and how they connect to our own lives and experiences.
And sometimes those connections can be surprising. Who would have thought that we'd find common threads running through a historic civil rights march, a government shakeup, a baseball contract, and even those smaller stories that might have flown under the radar?
Yeah, it's a reminder that the world is this complex and interconnected web, and that even seemingly disparate events can be linked in ways we might not initially realize.
And that's what makes this deep dive so rewarding. We're not just skimming the surface, we're diving deep, exploring those connections, and hopefully coming away with a richer understanding of the forces that are shaping our world.
It's about cultivating that sense of curiosity, that desire to look beyond the headlines and to grapple with the nuances and complexities of the issues we face.
Exactly. And as we wrap up this episode, we want to encourage you to keep that spirit of inquiry alive. Don't be afraid to ask tough questions, to challenge your own assumptions, and to engage in thoughtful discussions with others, even when you disagree.
You know, going back to those personal stories we discussed earlier,
All right.
the ones about Charles Malden and Kirk Carrington who faced unimaginable danger during the Selma marches,
Right.
those stories have the power to transport us back in time, to make history feel real and relatable. What other stories from this week resonated with you on a personal level?
Yeah, maybe it was a story about a local community initiative. Or an act of kindness that restored your faith in humanity.
Yeah.
Or even just a personal challenge that you're going through.
Right.
Whatever it is, take a moment to reflect on why that story caught your attention. What does it tell you about yourself, about your values, and about the world you want to live in?
And how does that story connect to the larger narratives we've been discussing?
Right.
Does it reinforce those themes of power, justice, and resilience? Or does it challenge them in some way?
We encourage you to continue exploring these questions, to keep those deep diver brains engaged, and to let your curiosity guide you on your own journey of discovery.
And remember, there's always more to learn, more to
Yes.
uncover, and more to connect. The world is full of fascinating stories just waiting to be explored.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll be back soon with another plunge into the most captivating stories shaping our world. Until then, stay curious and keep diving deeper.